Hey everyone, Sarkanite here, and I'm spontaneously doing a draft video. So Core 21 has been out for about a week now. I'm really enjoying the format, especially blue, and let's just jump into the draft. We're doing a best of one draft, um, because it's the beginning of the month, and if I start off well, I might as well make a push for Mythic. We'll see how it goes. And yeah, so far I have drafted 6 times, 5 of which were blue decks. I swear this isn't me being biased. And I have not drafted white at all yet, so hopefully we have a good excuse for drafting a white deck. What does this... Oh, 9 lives. That seems a bit contrived. Volcanic Geezer's got to be a great first pick here. Invigorating Surge, good in the Celestia deck. Epitaph Column was one of my favourite cards from Shadows over Innistrad, but probably not what we want here. Swift Response, Solid Removal, Roaming Gaslight, front runner for my favourite common in the set. I love this card. It just wins games really effectively and plays into the sort of games I like playing. A couple of solid black cards in the Imp and the Crypt Lurker, which I found pretty reasonable. But nothing comes close to a Geyser, so let's take a Volcanic Geyser. And we can follow it up with another good red card if we want. Heartfire Emulator might be my favourite design in the set, but that's selfishly because it fits really nicely into my cube. Other cards that stand out, I like Capture Sphere, but I found it pretty easy to pick them up, so I don't really need to take it here. I actually like Read the Tides quite a lot. It's a really nice flexible top end for any blue deck, because you either get to do the big tempo swing by bouncing 2 deck readers, or you can just draw 3 cards. Tides come good with flyers. Rousing Reed's pretty good. I assume Makeshift Battalion is good in the white decks that I don't know what they look like. But yeah, just stay on colour with our first pick for a really, really solid 2-drop. Ideally, we get to draft blue-white, blue-red, sorry, because that's the best. But not really anything standing out to me here. Even Gagglemaster seems really strong. In the sort of tempo-y, racy sort of decks. Quarian Dryad, another really cool card. Kind of okay white removal, decent white 2-drop. Good-ish blue cards. Nothing really stands out here, if I'm completely honest. Like, Goblin Arsonist is too much of a build around. I kind of like taking the Arcanist here. It plays well in the spells deck, which is where I kind of want to have the Emulator, and it makes mana for our Geezer. Gagglemaster's probably my next pick, but again, it's a 5-drop. That's not high priority, so let's take the Arcanist. Ooh, some nice options here. Again, we see another Battalion, and Gale Sweeper's quite nice in an aggressive deck. Bolt Hound's pretty nice as well if we do end up going aggressive. Bone Pit Brute's a decent 6-drop if you're being assertive, but they're really easy to get. Some medium green cards and Mind Rot's nothing special. I think Bolt Hound's clearly the best red card. And out of the blue cards, I'd probably take the Rousing Reed, because the spells deck tends to have more proactive payoffs. Or I could take the Gale Swooper if we want to be white, but I think for now we're just going to take the Bolt Hound, as I'd rather sort of cement myself in red. Wood in the Woods seems fine, pretty good. It's like almost hexproof. A couple of mediocre white cards. Teferi's Protege is kind of nice, but still not much more than filler. Pteranodon, I think, is really key in the Gruul decks, because I think the 2-drops are kind of mediocre in red and green, with this being the exception if you're either being super defensive in a green deck or you're playing Gruul and can turn it on easily. But if I wanted to take a green card, I kind of like taking the Warden. Let's hedge on the Warden. I think that's better than the Protege, and we're probably quite far away from a Reanimator deck. Or Life Gain deck, and Archer's kind of fine. Oh, we've got a Sanctum here. Not taking that. Saber-Tooth Maul is pretty okay. If you can offer a trade your opponent takes it, you have a 4/4 that turns on all your payoffs. Pitchbone Devils is pretty good. We could take a red-green dual land. Our best red and green cards are not splashable, so doesn't really incline me to taking a dual land this early. Term Anima's not a blue card I'm particularly interested in. It's probably fine, but we've not seen much black, so I don't really want to be black-red, but again, I think we're just going to take the red card while we can. Oh, what does this do? Oh, that's a spells payoff. So I've not seen this card in a draft yet, so it's going to be a 2 or 3, 4 for 4 with trample, which seems pretty solid. And I've heard rumours of green-red spells decks being okay. Obviously not the intended strategy, but if the red cards are good, then you can end up there, I suppose. Couple of medium blue cards. Track Down is like a fine filler card. Kind of goes into a green-red spells deck, I suppose. But yeah, let's go with the Augur. It's a great red card, and red's where we are. Oh, Hunter's Edge. That's really late for what is the premier green removal. So that's got to be a pretty good signal. Another Teferi's Protege. Fungal Rebirth's fine, but I think that's probably better in a grindier green deck, either, well, primarily green-black, I suppose, with the sort of morbid theme that's going on there. I think Fungal Rebirth's a pretty nifty card, though, but I think I'd still rather take the Hunter's Edge. Like, we've been seeing blue cards, but nothing that really grabs us. Oh, we've got the Epitaph Golem back. We could do some nonsense with that if we draw a lot of cards, but I don't think that's where we're going to end up. So I kind of just want to take a decent 2-drop in the Snare Spinner, I think. You can definitely have too many Ranger's Guiles, because although it's a card I'd quite happily put in my deck, I don't want too many, and I don't love Cetessan Training. It's fine. But yeah, 2 drops. Life Goes On, Anaki Ogre. Like, Ogre's going to be ostensibly fine for turning on our 4-power Matters payoffs, but we don't have any yet. And it's a pretty mediocre card without them, so I'd rather hedge to pick up a Rise for the Tides, because we're going to want one of these in our hypothetical red-blue deck. I'm certainly not playing Life Goes On, and the black cards aren't exciting. Alright, I'm in for Aquarian Dryad. I think this card's probably a really good 2-drop when we're leaning towards being more red than green. Snare Spinner, again, seeing these cards late is a pretty good indication that green's where we're supposed to be. Take a Brute over a Return to Nature because we're playing best of 1. And wheeling, oh my, late Pteranodon's got to be a great sign that Gruul is open specifically. There we go, Snare Spinner or a land. On the basis we've now got 4 2-drops, I'm pretty excited to play. I'm going to take the land. Track Down as well. Last pick Track Down's a bit disrespectful. Okay, so pack 2 starting off with a pretty nice rare, but not for us. White Aura, a couple of good gold cards, but not for us. Like, Twin Blade Assassins is a card I'd consider splashing, but I don't think we need to. Battery's Acolyte, probably, almost certainly the best white common. Excellent, excellent card. Crash Through isn't a card I'd hate to play. with the like handful of spells payoffs and generally big green stuff that doesn't mind trampling, but I'm not going to turn down a Scorching Dragonfire. Just great, solid removal. Sylphosaurs are fine, like curve filler. I don't think it's much better than that, but yeah, Scorching Dragonfire is great. Really happy to take that. We could take another Quarian Dryad or Battle Rattle Shaman. Makes all of our creatures like more lethal, like more effective, and it also turns on 4 power matters if we can get there. Thornwood Falls if we want to splash a blue card, but not really keen to splash either of those. Perchburn Devils is fine. I like Tolarian Kraken in the blue decks. Just again, the top end blue creatures are fantastic in this format, so there's plenty of options for your slower blue decks or your blue-black reanimator decks, but I just want to take Aquarian Dryad here. It's relatively easy to get it to be a 2-mana 3/3, I suppose. Just bias towards red cards, although Battle Rattle Shaman, probably great. Yeah, let's try Battle Rattle Shaman. I've not played with it yet in this set. Oh, Conclave Mental's a really good card, but not for us. What we're looking at is Spellgorger Weird or Turn to Slag here, and like I'm kind of happy playing a couple of Turn to Slags in my red decks. How many spells do we have though? We're looking at 2 instants, 2 sorceries, 10 creatures so far. So Spellgorger Weird's probably not fantastic, but I think we can make it work. I suppose Volcanic Geyser doesn't count that much. We've just got some removal spells. Track down. We probably should just take the Turn to Slag, but I'm going to be open to picking up Spellgorger Weirds because the card's fantastic in blue-red, and if we end up with more spells, then this certainly could work. Ooh, I've auto-picked it. Ooh, wow. Oh, there's loads of good cards here. It's like Hunter's Edge, we've already seen. Great removal spell. It turns on the Drowsing Pteranodons on its own, which is a great 2-drop for us. Spellgorger Weirds, if we can make it work. I don't like it in Gruul, but Goblin Wizardry's been fantastic for me, but it's really hard to turn down a Personal Howling Mine and Furious Rise. Like, we've already got a few things that turn it on. The Battle Rattle Shaman means that it turns it on itself. It makes every creature except the Snare Spinner turn it on, pretty much. So, yeah, we're not going to turn down a Furious Rise. Okay, nice options here. Constructed Rare, more nonsense, but we're not going to get to pull off Epitaph Golem. I like Sabertooth Mauler. But kinda like a Colossal Dreadmaw in my Gruul decks. And I've not been seeing a lot of them in drafts, so I kinda want to take the Dreadmaw, like solidify our 6-drops. Because hopefully we can take some Llanowar Emissaries at some point. Probably not in this pack because they're just fantastic, but that's a great Gruul card. What's this? That's our counter doubling. That seems like more of a payoff for blue-green. I'm just going to take another Dreadmaw. Dreadmaw's great. Big tramply dudes. Like 4 6-drops is definitely the upper limit of where I want to be without multiple ramp spells. But that just means we've got good 2s, we've got good 6s. We can just focus on the middle of our curve now, which is a really nice place to be. Like Truffle Snout, which is a solid 3-mana, 3/3, or we can gain life. Don't really like the Red Shrine, certainly not on its own. We could take a dual land, but we've already got one. I don't desperately want to. We've got a lot of playables already, but we've only got 2 3-drops and one of them doesn't affect the board, so let's take Truffle Snout. Probably should have considered the Ogre there, but oh my, another Colossal Dreadmaw. As much as I'd like it, I think we want to take either the Skyscanner or the Tyrant Ogre, and I think Tyrant Ogre just about wins out here. Skyscanner's great, but giving us a little bit of protection against flies is good, and pinging the opponent's good. Like, Tyrant Ogre's just a solid card. And we need some 4-drops. Not many, but we could do with some. Certainly more than we need a 6-drop. If we picked up any spells, we've got 5 spells, so I'm going to pick up a Crash Through to help our Kinetic Auger and Half-Fire Immolator, and just like generally, it's a fine card. We might not play it, but I think when we do play it, we'd rather have it than the Dilphosaur. Nothing too exciting here. If it was best of 3, I'd be taking Return to Nature. I don't think I'm playing Pitchpen Devils. Number 2. We'll take a Windscarred Crack. I can't think of any white rares I'd be excited to splash, but why not? Goblin Wizardry. Ooh. We don't have enough spells to make this work, so I'll take a Titanic Growth. Maybe we play it. I don't hate having a combat trick. We're not going to play the Bone Pit Brute. And we might play an Akioga, but I don't want to. We've got plenty. That's what I was saying earlier, we don't have to take them when we see them. Loads of blue cards in this pack, but what have we got? So this Master Core is a 3-mana 3/4. We have to discard a card, and it can make itself indestructible. That seems fine, but I don't know. Discarding a card's pretty naff. Alright, so putting +1/+1 counters is pretty nice. Works well with our Quirion Triad and Truffle Snout, Hunter's Edge. We've got a few things that work well with this, and it's worse than XX for X. We've got 2 cards we'd be quite happy to play into this if we pick them up later. So yeah, let's take the Wildwood Scourge. Might be able to make it work. And yeah, there's another Hunter's Edge. Counters, makes things 4 power. Seems great. Faith's Fetters is a removal spell I'd consider splashing, actually. But we didn't take the land, I think. Was it a land we were considering splashing with? Oh, well. Faith's Fetters is better than Hunter's Edge, but when we have to splash for it, I don't think it's worth it. Some nice black cards here. Blight Fangs. 3-mana Death Toucher. Not much more than that. Pestilent Haze is pretty good. Fate Resistance is pretty good. Pretty strong pack. Not exciting for us, but we're not going to turn down a Hunter's Edge. Alright, some heavy counter synergy stuff here, but I think I'd rather take one of these solid creatures. I think I'd rather have the Mauler. I think because it turns on our Furious Rise more easily. We don't have any other payoffs, so to speak. But it grows the Scourge repeatedly. And we do have more 4s than 3s. We wheel one of these, hopefully, from our opening pack, so hopefully we get the other one. Oh, here we go. Llanowar Visionary. Exactly what we want. This ramps us to our 6s, draws a card. It's just such a good green common. I would not be shocked if this is the best green common in the set. Usually it's the sort of mediocre removal spell like the Hunter's Edge, which is pretty good as far as green fight type spells goes, because it's not a fight spell and it leaves your opponent. It's a punch and it gives your opponent bonus, but Llanowar Visionary is so good. Fungal Rebirth's a great card as well, but Visionary. Oh, Temple of Triumph. At this point, I don't think we're going to be going super hard on the spells. We've got 8, but we might cut some of them. Lost Scale Quietal's probably phenomenal in blue-green. And we don't need Watcher because we've got 2 Dreadmaws, a Warden, we've got 2 X spells. I think I might just take an off-colour Temple. They're just nice. I'm always going to play an off-colour Temple, pretty much. We're not going to splash anything off it, but it's just a card that's essentially free to pick up. And here we go. We could take a Bolt Hound or a Sabertooth Mauler. I don't think we're that aggressive, so I'm not in love with Bolt Hound. The only reason I would want it is because we're light on 3-drops, but we've got a decent number of 2-drops. We've got Truffle Snout, Visionary, Furious Rise, Bolt Hound. We've got 4 3-drops. And this isn't even our opening pack, so we were hoping to wield the Pride Malkins if we're lucky. So I'll take the Mauler, I think. There you go, Pride Malkin up Colossal Dreadmaw, and here I think Colossal Dreadmaw's a better card, but we've got enough 6s. It's going to be Discipline, take Pride Malkin. Riddle Form's great card, love that card. Frantic Inventory, also a great card. But we're just happy here, we've got a nice solid looking Gruul deck. Double the power, that could be pretty lethal, but I think it's just not anywhere near as consistent as the Titanic Growth if we want a combat trick. And we're certainly not going to want 2, so I'm just going to take the Crash through in case we decide to go in that direction, but I don't think we are. Fantastic, another Pride Malkin. Might take us to some training here. Probably not going to play it. I think that's better than the Dilfer Soul. We don't need filler level creatures. Or 3rd Pride Malkin. There we go. Plenty of 3-drops options now. And we round out the pack, which is going to take irrelevant commons. Doesn't really matter at this point. Yeah, pretty happy with how this draft went. We've already got like 33 cards in our main deck, so got plenty of cuts to make. Probably going to start with these Crash throws in all likelihood. Nothing exciting here. I like Spine Megalodon though, so going to take pity on it. We're drafting with humans, but we don't play against the humans in this draft pod. We get paired against random humans that may be in our draft pod, so it's just not worth hate drafting. It can be worth drafting rares to bulk out your collection, but we haven't seen any that I'm particularly desperate to have. No Teferi's, let's put it that way. Yeah, pretty happy with this deck. Like we didn't actually take any more 2-drops after our first pack, and there's Scorching Dragonfire, but we've got 4 good ones, and that's kind of where I want to be in a sort of bigger Gruul deck. Like I've certainly played Gruul decks with like 6, 7 2-drops, but it seems perfectly fine to me. So we've got to remember these cards are in our sideboard, because what I am going to do is I'm going to change the view to this, and with the core set update we have this button here which makes it full screen, and then if we type in here T:creature, it separates our creatures and spells for us now, which is very exciting. And unlike Arena, we know the Volcanic Geyser really lives over here. So what have we got? We've got 1, 2, 3, 4 solid removal spells, a nice big X spell, combat trick, cantrip, and then card draw engine. Spells seem pretty solid to me. We're going to put the Crash throughs over here because we're probably not going to want them. Again, another X spell. Let's put it in the top end over here, because that's kind of where we want to play it. We want to play it as like a 3/3 or bigger, ideally. That hopefully we can put more counters on it with the Maulers and the Hunter's Edges and the Truffles, and that's the Pride Malkins. We've got a surprising amount of +1/+1 counts to synergy in the end. So we've got to make 8 cuts. That includes these Crash throughs. So we need 6 cuts overall. So we're going to have to be pretty brutal. So Kinetic Augur is probably only going to be a 1, maybe 2 power creature that sort of double rummages for us. And that's pretty good. But with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 instants and sorceries, realistically that means that halfway through, like on turn 10, we're probably going to have maybe 3 in the graveyard, which is just not that exciting. So I think Kinetic Augur just being around, we're just not going to get there for us. And then as a result, I don't feel bad about having tracked down Sif on the sidelines. And yeah, so quite a lot of top end. Pitchburn Devils is probably not necessary. We've got a decent curve up to that point. Like, yes, it's our only 5-drop, but we could double spell on that turn. We've got decent stuff. This seems like just fine in our decks. Let's put that over there. These seem pretty good. I don't love Bolt Hound. We're not that aggressive. Bolt Hound is the sort of card I'd want in my deck with 8 2-drops. So we got to find 2 more cuts. I'm not cutting a 2-drop. I don't really want to go down to 3. We've got enough removal and we're not super aggressive enough for Titanic Growth to be fantastic, so we can probably cut that. And maybe we're supposed to... I'm going to put that there to make our curve look better. That's what I'm going to do. 4 6-drops is definitely on the high end. Probably should cut 1. Don't want to, but we probably should. 5. The Pride Malkins are good. Because curving a Pteranodon into a Pride Malkin seems pretty great. How many red spells have we got for the Quirion Dryad? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're pretty light on red spells for the Quirion Dryad, actually. So maybe we do want the spells package. Because if we put the Crash Throughs in, Kinetic Augur's probably good enough. Because that will also help the Quirion Dryad, and we could cut a 6-drop and then only play 16 lands. Which seems pretty optimistic with all the 6s in our deck. We've got... So if we play 2 cantrips and a mana creature in our Llanowar Visionary that's also a cantrip, that probably reaches the right amount of cards to cut a land. We've also got the Scryland. Because normal deck building theory is that every 4 cantrips you play lets you afford to cut a land. The problem is we kind of want to be curving out. You know what? We're doing it for a video. Let's try it. So let's put the Crash Throughs back and the Kinetic Augur back. We will cut a Sabertooth Mauler. We'll cut one of them, not the other, so I'm going to actually make that disappear. And then we need to find 3 cards out of these, one of which is going to be a land, which I'm going to assume... Let's just call it a forest for now. So 2 cuts out of these. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Probably trim one of the Pride Malkins. It's fine. It's not really much of a mana curve than the block. Oh, and we needed to cut one of the 6s, so... I think Brute's probably the worst. Dreadnought's just so solid. And I haven't played with Warden of the Woods yet, but it dying into 2 cards when it gets removal spelled seems great. It's also like more reliable for if we want to Hunter's Edge because it's less punishing if we were to be interacted with, because we get the 2 cards back, so our opponent can't 2 for 1 with it. So let's cut the Brute and see how this goes. And if we feel like it's not quite working out, then we can change it because it's Arena. We can do that. So there we go. That's our draft deck. We looking at the lands, we probably want to buy a slightly green because of our creatures being what we want to play first and being primarily green. So I think 6 mountains, 1 forest is what we want to do. So let's go and find the matching forest. It's that one. Really wish Arena would let you pick default basics that aren't just what's your most recent one in your collection, because this is definitely not the prettiest forest. We all know it's this one. So yeah, there we have it. That's our draft deck. So let's jump into the games. Alright, here we go with round one of our grueling draft. And what are we looking at here? So, this seems pretty okay to me. We've got a really good defensive 2-drop on the draw that we can play, so even if we miss our land drop for a turn or two, we're probably alright, and being on the draw we can afford to miss one or two, and then we've got a nice 3-drop to follow up with, and then some top end to play towards, and hopefully card draw that gets turned on at some point. We need to draw Pride Malkin or something like that. So we're going to keep this hand. It's fine. We'd like another land. And yeah, we got it, because we're great at Magic. Our opponent has excellent... Oh, it's the Godzilla one. I love this art, and then there's just a Godzilla in it, which I'm just like, do you have to? I'm not a big fan of the Godzilla things. A lot of the art's great, but I love sunsets in the artwork, just generally. Rambling aside, we've hit 2 lands. This is great, because we can take turn 4 to play our tap land at this rate, because we're going to play 2-drop. We're not going to get to attack with it unless we top deck a Pride Malkin, and if we do, it's great, because we're attacking on turn 3 with a 4-4. Our opponent has opted twice, and still not found a third colour, so they could very easily have cancel here, and don't particularly care about that, because we're going to Truffle Snout. And the fact it's pausing indicates quite strongly that there is a cancel, or maybe a Lofty Denial in our future. And there we are, Lofty Denial. Really, really neat card for Constructed. Teferi's Ageless Insight. So if you would draw a card, draw 2 cards, but not in your draw step. Huh. That seems nifty, but who knows? We're going to wait on the Kinetic, or... are we? I think we're going to play Kinetic Augur here. But it's awkward because we don't really want to rummage any of these away that much. You know what, no, I'm just going to play our land and stick Furious Rise, and we can just be patient. Hopefully our opponent plays something we want to kill with our turn to slag, but they didn't, and they also haven't played something we can Hunter's Edge. So if we Augur here, we could dump the turn to slag, because it just feels bad. If this was an instant, it would be obviously much better, and we could play it on our opponent's turn. And that's the problem we have, is if our opponent played a creature that turn, we could Hunter's Edge, kill the creature, get it for 4, draw a card-ish with our Furious Rise, but yeah, I think I'm just going to wait and hold the Kinetic Augur to be our sort of flood mitigation. Hopefully we just draw a land and we play a Dreadmaw, or our opponent plays a creature, we can Hunter's Edge. I mean, technically we can Hunter's Edge that. So, what we have to decide here is how much we want to play around a counterspell. Because I'd really like to stick this Wildwood Scourge. Our opponent's been playing like they have a counterspell, if I'm completely honest. So, they scry to the top, I believe. I think I just... it feels really bad to Hunter's Edge a Wall of Runes, but it turns on so much of our draw. Or trades for a counterspell, so I think it's worth it, although we could wait to play it on the Scourge. I'm going to play a 3/3 Scourge. This is going to sound really weird, but it plays around Lofty Denial. And I feel like there's a Lofty Denial. And if it plays around it sort of plays into the cancel, which is also fine. we've got to trade cancel for something, almost certainly, so there we go. Our opponent is thinking now. This implies to me very strongly that they have a lofty denial and are moderately annoyed that I've played around it. Which is great, because that means we can Hunter's Edge the Triangle on the next turn, get a counter on both of our creatures, and then get in for a lot of damage. Yeah, this reeks of a Lofty Denial. Which is why you should put Lofty Denial in your blue-white Flyers deck, and not in your apparently mono-blue control deck. So now we're going to fire off the Hunter's Edge, because there's so much upside here. We also get to play around the Lofty Denial we think our opponent has. Oh, it's a rewind. Huh. Alright. That's fair enough. Let's see if our opponent plays around a hypothetical combat trick. They did. I'm just going to throw this Cash Throw into the bin. It makes our Kinetic Auger better. We can try and hit a land drop. There we go. We've hit our land drop, so we get to play our Dreadmaw next turn. And they've cycled a Waker of Waves. Interesting. At this point, I'm pretty confident our opponent's mono blue. Ah, Pride Malkin's great here. Gives us hope. If it resolves, we get 2 4-power creatures, so we're sort of protected from a bounce spell. They both get Trample, which is not particularly relevant in the face of a 0/4, but... Alright, Frost Breath. Fine. Battle Rattle Shaman's great. It means our Pride Malkin can get through the wall of runes. And now we're just going to sort of go off with Furious Rise. Like, the steady stream of cards should be able to drown our opponent out until they get to do something great with the Ageless Insight. Cancel's fine. Our opponent seemed keen to play around a mythical combat trick. I mean, this time we're actually representing it, but I don't think there's a 1-mana combat trick that's relevant. Because there's Titanic Growth, there's the doubly one in red, which I can't remember the name of. Alright, they're playing around it this time, so maybe I am forgetting something. Perfectly happy to draw a Turret Ogre. Oh! That is not good. That is not good at all. Alright, so our Augur would be 2 power. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play a Turret Ogre, not get the ping off it, and I'm going to put a counter on it to protect it from an Ugin plussing on it. But yeah, we're in trouble. Unsurprisingly, Ugin is a good card. I will note our opponent has still not drawn anything off their Teferi's Ageless Insight. Alright, Mistral Singer. So first we're going to see if our opponent blocks, I think. Oh. That is not good news. I'm going to play Dreadmaw. And then once we're going to hold the land for the Kinetic Auger. And yeah, this Ugin's going to be real hard to beat. Now they're going to draw cards off their Insight as well. So yeah, this game has gotten away from us somewhat. Maybe we played around the counterspells too much, but it looks like they didn't ever have that Lofty Denial that we thought they had. 2 5s, pretty good at blocking. If only we had a way to deal at 5 damage.
I will destroy if I
I've got to get Ugin below 6 loyalty. So I think we're going to turn to Slag here and attack Ugin. Okay, so our opponent doesn't have any instant speed interaction here, so that's fine. Smash Ugin, so we get to keep our Dreadmore alive. Nice. So they have a Bolt to play with, and then next turn we're going to play the Kinetic Augur, who's up to being 3 power, which is not bad. And it means we get to do something with these irrelevant lands we've drawn. Right, hopefully our opponent is resigned to losing their Ugin. Good, good. So we've dealt with an Ugin, and we're not that far behind on board. I'd honestly say we're ahead on board, and if our Kinetic Augur draws us into relevant spells, then we're great. So to try and draw us into better spells, I think we're supposed to play, we have to decide whether to play the Temple first before we draw 2 cards, or after it once we know what those 2 cards are. And I think because we're going to draw 2 cards, we want to, that's more information to inform our next decision than playing the Scryland first. So I'm going to rummage first. And then once we know what we've drawn, we can scry. Oh, we hit 2 lands. Well, that went poorly. It wouldn't have mattered either way. There were 3 forests on top, so... Oh dear. Library Larcenist is pretty neat with Teferi's Aegis Insight, but our opponent is dead. Because we've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 mana. So this is 7, 13, and then that's going to be 4 power, 17. So if they don't block, they die. I mean, they could have a counterspell, but 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Got to go for it. We're not under pressure ourselves, so... Is our opponent dead? Oh, we should have let them block first. Oh, we did. Oh, good. We won! We beat an Ugin! Good way to start. Not bad for our first match. Alright, here we go for round 2. We've got a pretty nice curve here. We get a 2-2 Quirion Dryad pretty quickly, which certainly suits me. Turn 1, get our Scryland down. I think because we have the Hunter's Edge, we actually want this. Because we can curve Pteranodon, Furious Rise, Hunter's Edge, and go off. We need to hit a land in 2 draw steps after the Pteranodon, which is fine. Because our opponent appears to be playing green, then creature sizing is important. And getting an early 4/4 on the battlefield seems like a great plan. Because on the play, we're going to be able to dominate the board. Okay, Gruul. Alright. So there's a land, so if our opponent plays a medium creature, our draw's just going to sort of snowball, which is, I suppose, the most effective way of winning a Gruul Mirror. Could play a Pride Malkin here, which is probably the best thing they can do, without it being like a nonsense rare of some description. Another Pteranodon's fine, we get a kill. So yeah, while I was waiting to be paired for round 2, I was checking the combat tricks available. Realistically, all we were looking at is a potential shock for 1 red mana in the previous game when we were attacking into the 0/4. And as far as 1 mana green spells, we have Portcullis Vine, which is definitely not a combat trick. Life Goes On, which is definitely not a playable. Ranger's Guile, which wouldn't have pushed us through, but is something we have to consider here. So what do we think the likelihood is that our opponent has a Ranger's Guile? And if they do, how bad is it for us? And the answer is pretty bad and plausible. But we don't really have another good play, and the upside, I think, is there. So I'm just going to go for it, because we get 4 damage in and a card. And good, they didn't have Ranger's Guile. So we get to attack for 4. And we get our card on the end step. Nice. So we get to play another 4-power creature next turn. Gives our Furious Rise a bit of insurance. And yeah, we've curved out pretty nicely in this game. Lands are nice. Attack for 4. What does our opponent have? And again, because we've got our nice big fireball in our hand, we don't have to deal too much damage either, which is nice. Our opponent has an instant speed removal spell. Dun dun dun. Nothing we can do about that, but that's fine because we get to play another 4/4. And then if we draw a red spell, we can start making it bigger with our Quirion Dryad, which is nifty. We're probably going to play the Llanowar Visionary next turn. Plays nicely with our Volcanic Geyser, draws us cards, all great things. Hobble Fiend is not too terrifying. We're going to play the Visionary out first to get information. Maybe we get a Pride Malkin. Makes it harder for our opponent to block, giving it trample. Warden of the Woods doesn't do that for us, so we're just going to attack for 4. If our opponent wants to trade both their creatures for it, that's fine. They could trade a Titanic Growth for it defensively. That's also fine, because I think we're favoured going long. Hopefully this is just a chunk block. I doubt it. Oh, they've drawn a Ranger's Guile. So they're happy to 2-for-1 themselves to turn off our Furious Rise return, which is fair enough. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, that's also fine. So we're going to play Forest here because we've got our Fireball, so we're going to play the lands out rather than last game where we were holding them for our Kinetic Augur. And because of our Saber-Tooth Mauler, we have a free attack here because we can trade off either our creatures and then get a 4/4 here, or we get to play a massive 5/7 with Vigilance, but we can't do both because we only have 8 mana. Our opponent has gracefully taken up our offer of a trade. We don't actually get the Furious Rise this turn, though, which is a shame. But there are worse problems to have. Our opponent has to react to the Mauler. They've played a 4/4, though. Which is a mild annoyance. So, we can use the Geyser to get one of these off the board. We also have the option of trading. But I think we can just sit pretty. Play the Warden. And draw cards. Pride Malkin's great. Because we can make it so they have to double block either of our creatures, push damage through. Or we can put a counter on the Warden of the Woods. It's all good. And our Volcanic Geyser is pretty safe in our hands because our opponent is not playing Mind Rot. Which Mandel's is decent. So we've got 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got 6, 7. We've got 7 damage. Volcanic Geyser. We'll play our Pride Malkin. We're going to put the counter on the Warden of the Woods to give it trample, so our opponent has to consider blocking it. Because it's got Vigilance, it's a pretty free attack, and if we trade it for a creature, that's fine. We get a counter here, which means it attacks through theirs. And we still get to draw the card with our Furious Rise this turn. Now, if we were to Volcanic Geyser, we absolutely dominate this board, and we're still drawing cards. So that is a pretty compelling option, to be completely honest. We get to keep our massive creature. We get to eat both of theirs. We still get the counter on them all. We still get to draw a card. Yeah, this is just too good to not go face. Pew! I mean, pew! We also get extra damage through because of trample. There we go. Not a bad turn. That definitely seems more effective than pushing damage through and then Volcanic Geyser in for lethal later. Our opponent doesn't have an attack. So if we Hunter's Edge targeting the Warden, we're pretty safe. They can finish off a Quirion Dryad or a Pride Malkin with the damage from the Pitchburn Devils. But that doesn't save them, so we get a good game from our opponents, we give them a good game back, and we're 2-0, moving on to round 3. Alright, here we go for round 3. And yeah, nice little curve going here. Pretty happy with the hand. To boost our Quirion Dryad, which so far has not been particularly impressive, but our deck definitely turned out greener than we anticipated when we took the Quirion Dryad after pack 1 being very red for us. That's a nice draw, because that means next turn we have the option of Pride Malkin to build our board, or we can deal with their 2-drop, crash through. And it looks like we're just going with the Pride Malkin. Smash. And yeah, we can make Quirion Dryad a 4/4 next turn, get in for 6. If they play something that can be killed, which it looks like they did. So let's start with crash through. More lands. Not ideal, but when we've got this much board presence this early, it doesn't bother me too much. They're already on 12 and they haven't had their 4th turn yet. And we've got top end to draw to. So yeah, pretty happy with this start. Snespinner holds our Pride Malkin back. Unless we had another Pride Malkin. Okay, it still kind of holds it back now that they have. So do we want to trade this Pride Malkin and the counter off this one for their blocker? And I think the answer is yes. We're ahead. We get in 5 damage if they do that, because we're going to play this first. If they don't, they take 8, and then we have our Immolator that can hopefully push us some extra damage through by shocking a creature. And they take the trade, which is fine. They're on 7, we have a 5/5. And they need 2 blockers. Well, no, they don't. They need a blocker that can deal with this. That's fine. We get to put them to 3. And hopefully we can get across the line. Fingers crossed. We've got 6 drops to draw to. We've got the Volcanic Geyser. They have a 3/3. They have a 4/4. Alright. They've stabilised. We're drawing lands. Have to hop back. That's pretty good. Sort of fulfills the role of Furious Rise. If you're really heavy on the 4-drops, you get all your bigger creatures to be cantrips. which is definitely great. And they've got the Furious Rise. Okay, they are going to outcard us hard. Forest is not too threatening, at least. Perfect. This is the problem with the Pteranodon, not gonna lie. But a Hunter's Edge off the top gets us through this board. Our opponent's almost certainly going to add to it, but we're still in this. Our opponent has a lot of pressure on the board for us, so we're still doing fine. They've got a lot of life total to break through. Our opponent doesn't have any particularly big creatures, so things are alright. They're drawing cards, so we do need to get a move on. Turn to Slag has got to be great here. Because we can kill their 4/4, we can attack with our Immolator and trade it for a Pride Malkin. And we can also attack with our Pride Malkin because, yeah. Because they have to block the Heartfire Immolator with either... So we're definitely attacking with the Immolator. If they block with the 2/4, they bounce. That's fine. If they block with the 2/4 on the Pride Malkin, we kill a Pride Malkin. Also fine. And if they block with both of these, we kill both the Pride Malkins. Also fine. All their other blocks are bad. But if they do that, what happens if we also attack with the Pride Malkin? They can choose to eat the Pride Malkin and trade for these, in which case we trade 2 creatures for 2 creatures, which is worse than just trading the Immolator. But I think if we trade stuff off, it buys us more time to draw to our big creatures and our Fireball. So I like this attack best. It's pretty close though. I'm pretty happy to hear your opinions. Looks like they're going for trading the Pride Malkins. No, they're going for eat the Pride Malkin. And trade, so... Oh no, they're still thinking. Just like moving their cards around helps visualize it. We're definitely going to put this first because we do not have an instant in hand, which is something they had to think about when doing their blocks. So what's happening here is we're trading 2 creatures for their 2 Pride Malkins, which is fine. We could turn it into trading our Immolator for 1 of their Pride Malkins, which I like less. So yeah, let's go with that. Hopefully this way they can't turn on their Uprising or their Furious Rise, because they didn't play a 4-power creature last turn, and we know the card they drew off their Furious Rise wasn't good. Sadly, they have a 4/4 Vigilant, 4/4 Trample Reach, and another Pteranodon, so that hasn't worked out particularly well for us. But Colossal Dreadmaul's not the worst draw. Because now our removal spells do a pretty good job of giving us attack options. Hunter's Edge especially. So much better than Hunt the Weak. Yeah, what looked like it could be a very short game has turned into a bit of a stally long one. Opponents considering their options here, which is not a good sign. Attacking with their 3/3. That's a really strange attack. So Titanic Growth is probably the most likely thing here. So we could trade Titanic Growth and a Pteranodon for our Colossal Dreadmore. I don't like this. We've got life total to play with. It didn't give them the option to do something before damage, so I actually don't think they had anything there. Or they clicked really quickly, which is also plausible, but they did click really quickly. Oh, they've got a Hunter's Edge. That's not good. If we draw our Hunter's Edge, though, they immediately lose, and Battle Rattle Shaman doesn't give us an attack here, which is a shame. And it doesn't block very well. So I'm actually inclined to hold it for now, because it doesn't affect the board, and our opponent's not going to get out of our hand. They might have a shock that's not doing anything, so we can save it for later. If it gets to the point where our opponent's pressuring us like this... Oh dear. Okay, we are very, very much in danger, because our opponent now has effectively an 11/11 trample or something like that. They've got 10 lands. Oh dear. Yeah, it looks like 10 lands, so that means Rada can become a 13 power trampler. So we are definitely playing out all of these cards. In order to try and survive. Okay. That's not good. I think we have to draw a Fireball now. That's a shame. Our draw played out aggressively, and it couldn't quite cross over the line. Oh, creatures without flying can't block this turn. I think we're dead. That's a shame. Rada's a good card. Still, 2-1, not too bad. Round 4 coming up. Right, so we've got an interesting opening hand here for round 4. We don't have a green source. We've got a double green spell and no cheap cards, no 2-drops, no 3-drops. But we're on the play with a Scryland. I think this would be a moderately greedy mulligan. So I think we're best off keeping and trying to scry into a 2-drop we can cast or forest. Our opponent's got a bit of a thinker as well, which is hopefully encouraging. Hello, opponent. Here is a Scryland. That is a mountain. We definitely do not need those. That is an expensive removal spell. We definitely don't want that now. Riddle Form. That's quite a good card. So we could play out a 2/2 here. This is the problem with X spells. But I think we want to wait till turn 5 and play it as a 4/4 so that we don't have defensive Riddle Forms being an irritation. Hopefully. Bolt out. Interesting. Not a card you'd expect to see too many of in an Izzet list, but that's okay. I don't think there's other creatures +1/+0, so they need something to get through the Turret Ogre. They have something to get through the Turret Ogre and hit us for 6. Ow. Yeah, with all of our removal being sorcery speed, this Riddle Form might be a problem. Oh well, 4/4 it is. Oh no, not a Lofty Denial. Oh, Lofty Denial, Riddle Form, that's really cool. That would have been pretty brutal, actually, because we just can't resolve anything through that. And their flyer is immune from removal that isn't an instant speed then. Which, oh no. Ghostlight is a good card. Alright, so 6 mana. I think this means play a Dreadmore. Hopefully we draw a land and we can double spell next turn. But if they have another Ghostlight, we are just immediately going to lose. And that is the power of Ghostlights, is chaining them together against decks with big, expensive spells wins you games. Our opponent can get 8 damage in the air here as well, so that's pretty scary. If we don't draw a land, we probably have to play both of these out as 3-drops. Or we could die. Because the Bolt Hound battle cries our opponent's Ghostlights and Riddle Forms, and we take 8. So yeah, that game was quick, and not in a good way. Maybe that draw was a little bit too greedy to keep then. It's hard to say early in the format how aggressive it is. I've heard people describe it as aggressive, but I've had most success with the slower blue decks, so it's hard to say at this point how greedy that keep was. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are. I'll have a think, and we'll go on to round 5. I've got another interesting draw here against Dr. Tom in whatever round this is. I think because we've got a 2-drop and we're on the draw, we'll keep this. Hopefully we draw a red source. And if it is going to be one of our 2 tapped red sources, we roll on turn 1. We are not that lucky, apparently. And if our opponent's playing Selesnya, we could be in trouble, but it looks like they're playing some sort of splash. Looks like we're playing against another Gruul deck. And yeah, so we appear to be playing against Gruul decks or Spells decks. Alright, so what do we do now? I think we just have to play the Pride Malkin. The interesting question is where we put the counter, and I'm actually inclined to put it on the Pride Malkin. Because if we do get to build up our board, then at least both of our creatures will have trample. Thinking about that a little bit more, I'm pretty confident that was a mistake, because now we don't have the line of Hunters edging the Quirion Dryad to clear the way. So what that does mean is we're going to play the Turret Ogre this turn. The timing window suggests that our opponent doesn't have an instant, and making this trade seems fine. Now we get to crash through and Hunter's Edge, because we definitely need to kill this Conclave Mentor before it starts doing its thing. And we also get the Quirion Dryad to be 4/4 if we put the counter on it. So that is good. And I'm happy to trade either of the other creatures off, because we've now drawn a 6-drop and then a card draw engine to follow up with. So yeah, looked a little bit scary at one point there, but we've now got a decent board and follow-ups in our hand, and the Furious Rise should hopefully mean we don't just peter out. What I have failed to comment on is our opponent has then gone with Swamp and Tranquil Cove, so our opponent's got a spicy special going on here. Not really sure what their deck's going to do, but certainly some mad science from Dr. Tom. Could it be the Honden deck with the Sanctum of All? That'd be pretty interesting to see. we've just drawn a 7th land, which lets us play all of our spells. So we're going to attack. Our opponent's going to do some blocking. We don't really care about the outcome because we still get a 4-power creature and a Furious Rise at the end of the day. And I don't think our opponent has anything much better than trading for the 3/2. And chump blocking. Is there a sweeper in the set? I can't think of one off the top of my head, and even if they do... Oh, I can think of one. Ugin. But we've already beaten that, so our opponent can't play it next turn. And we just put a ton of pressure on the board, so I think we're looking pretty good here. Gruul Smash. Enemy of Gruul taking long time to think. And we turn our creature sideways and see what happens. And hopefully it is our opponent exploding. Are they going to give us cards? No. They're going to kill a creature so we don't get cards, but still they lose. That's disappointing. I wanted cards. Well, that was pretty quick round, whatever number this is. 5? So, yeah. Join me for the next one, immediately after this. And as if by the magic of video editing, we're already here in round 6, because I checked the numbers, and Quirion Dried showing up again in our opening hand, but this one looks pretty nice, actually, because we get to curve Quirion Dried into removal spell for their 2-drop, into 4-power creature on turn 4 that makes our Quirion Dried a 3/3, and we get to try and scry for our 4th land drop. So, yeah, pretty damn good opening hand, if you ask me. Quirion Dried is such a cool card. Nice. Top end. Our opponent has not played a 2-drop for us to kill, which is not very nice of them. So now we're only going to get 1 damage in. On the bright side, this means if they play a 3-drop, hopefully we get to destroy the 3-drop for even more tempos. Taste the tempo. Attack for 3. And if our opponent plays a reasonable blocker, at least that means we get to turn our Sabertooth Mauler on. Solemn Simulacrum sort of counts as a decent blocker, but not in the way our opponent would have wanted. And if they jump block, we'd still get to power this up. Yeah. Just gonna add to the board. Opponent has now raced ahead of us in the mana development department and the cards in hand department, and a 4/6 Tolarian Kraken is quite good because we can't attack anymore, which is sad. Yeah, nothing we can do there. Our opponent gets to tap down one of our creatures if they want to pay 1 mana, which they probably don't. But it means all their opts now serve as weird tappy things. So what does that do? That means they block a 4-power creature, then they have 7/8 power of trample going over the Solemn Simulacrum. Seems alright to me. We can always draw into something good to play. That's okay. Do we want to trade one of our bigger creatures for some damage? Chances our opponent has something to do as well. I think we can afford to push damage here. Interesting choice of blockers. Alright, so our opponent's on 3. I've got 1 blocker And we've got 4 attackers. Because we're going to have a 3/3 Truffle Snout. Unless our opponent has a counterspell to say something about that, which they did. So yeah, it looks like we're back in the trying to push through those last bits of damage. Luckily, we've already got the lands to cast our Volcanic Geyser if we get there. And the 2/2's not too threatening of a blocker. Gourmand, however, is pretty good. Goodbye, Truffle... not Truffle Snout, Spider. Oh, now that's a really interesting draw. What are we supposed to do with this? So we have 2 in the graveyard already. I think we're supposed to play it and dump the Warden of the Woods, because that doesn't particularly help us push through damage. It makes our Quarian Dryad bigger. And now we can play the Dreadmaw next turn. Tide Skimmer, sure. Larcenist, okay. Now we know what's up. We don't have any attacks this turn, but there's a very reasonable chance we do next turn. Our opponent probably taps something down here because it's going to be relatively free. So what would be great? Second cash through is probably great. Mind Control! Boo! Okay, so they've got 6, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 toughness. We have 9, 10, 11, 12 power of trample. That does not get us anywhere. What it does let us do is trade our Quarian Dryad for at least their Gourmand or Kraken, probably the Gourmand, and make this into a 5/5, so I think that's what we want to do. We don't have an attack with anything else. Okay, so which one do we want to destroy? I think it's the Kraken. So we traded our 2-drop for a 6-drop after it dealing a lot of damage, which sounds like a pretty good 2-drop to me. Our opponent's drawn a land. And we're going to eat the tasty, tasty Larcenist. That was a good draw. Blimey. Wow, our opponent's deck's coming up good here. Turn to Slag is a pretty great draw as well, because we can now finish off the Gourmand. It still doesn't give us an attack, though, because of our old friend Colossal Dreadmaw. But again, we're okay here. We're building towards a big fireball, and eventually our Sabertooth Mauler will get an attack in. That's a good draw for our opponent. It means they can get the turn animal swinging in. So we're under a bit of pressure. Ooh, crash through. Nice. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 toughness. We have 6, 10, 11, 12, 13 power. And we get to remove a lot of their toughness. So we Hunter's Edge down the Colossal Dreadmaw with our Mauler. They can dart to kill that, but then we have 5/4 trampling in, which trades for a lot of stuff. Or alternatively, we put the counter on this so it tramples over. because they would need to put both of these in front of it. It would have 6 power, would trade for both of these. This would trade for this. I like on the kinetic auger and killing the anima. And then we get to attack with both of these, which the Dreadmore has to block 1. The other one gets in 2 damage by doing double blocked, and we attack with the Pride Malkin, which is exactly 3 damage, except for the fact I forgot about the dart. Whoops. It still works out. We trade off a lot of stuff, get a couple of points of damage in. Yeah, let's kill the looter off rather than the 3-1. Yeah, so we trade our board for 2 damage and their board, except for 2-3. Alright, this buys us a lot of time to draw to our fireball. We've only got 18 cards left. So, yeah, fingers crossed. And we've got reasonably sized creatures to draw to as well. So we've only got 7 lands left in 16 cards, I think. Okay, so the question is now when we cast the fireball. So, do we wait as long as possible, or do we just fire it off as soon as possible? And try and bait out a counterspell with something else. Have they already played counterspells? They have played a rewind. So they could have some other counterspells. Realistically, we want to play around the Lofty Denial. I can't think of anything instant speed life gainy that's too threatening. I think we do it now. So that's lethal and still plays around a Lofty Denial. Let's do it for 3. I can't think why, but we still play around Lofty Denial. Oh, they didn't have anything and we win! Hooray! Fireball! That puts us to 4 and 2. And into the gold tier 3. And we're going to be back for round 7 right up now. Alright. Our good old friend Quarian Dryad back for more. And we've got a nice little curve going. So yeah, great draw. Pretty pleased with how Quarian Dryad's been playing out. Wasn't entirely clear how good it was going to be, but it's living up to what I'd hoped. Oh, if only we had another forest. Do we want to Scorching Dragonfire this Pegasus? Don't think we do. I think there's almost certainly higher value flyers that we want to deal with. So I think we're just playing Furious Rise here. I don't think we need to get in damage too aggressively in this matchup. I'd rather get this down before a Lofty Denial. My opponent seems inclined to Grace, and that's because they've got another one. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to offer a block. And they don't have it, we get 2 damage in. That was probably wrong. We probably should have played the Battle Rattle Shaman, actually. Got in 4 damage and drawn a card off our Furious Rise. That was bad. Yeah, don't give your opponents choices. We missed out on 3 damage and a card. That was really poor. That is worth Dragon Firing, or Hunter's Edging. We have a brace on our hands. So we Hunter's Edge. Doesn't really matter, but I think I'd rather have a 3-3. and we crash through. We get in for 7, 8, 9 damage. Our opponent is on 9, and we have a Dragonfire and a land. Looks like we've got another quick game here. Basic Acolyte is so good. Like, we had to deal with a 2-3 life linking body. It doubled our opponent's air force. And if we weren't on quite such an aggressive draw ourselves, we'd be under a lot of pressure. Our opponent has decided they don't have the option of blocking, which hopefully is good for us. Having the 1 instant speed removal spell in our deck hopefully means we don't get destroyed by something flashing. But Frost Breath is okay. Could be worse. That's an interesting draw. We're probably just using it end step. Glorious Anthem. Do we want to kill a Pegasus? I think killing a Pegasus is our best play here, because we don't get to attack next turn, so we want to survive. And this helps us survive the best. Maybe we were supposed to Dragonfire the Pegasus. Baron? Ugh. Oh no. That's definitely not good. Well, we can play a Dryad and kill off the Baron, so at least our Dragonfire's done something. And we still got our card off Furious Rise. We've got 5, 6, 7 power on board. Well, the Furious Rise has certainly done work this game, because if we didn't have it, we would have flooded out by now. But if our opponent has another flyer, we are dead on board. So that's kind of okay, because 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, we put our opponent to 1. Good thing we put the counter on the Battle Rattle Shaman, eh? Alright, let's see if our opponent can kill us. Trying another land. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And that is +2/+0, and we are done. Well, that was a good game. What tight margins. So unfortunately, that ends our draft at a mere 4 and 3, which is certainly not bad. And it more or less keeps us afloat with 1,400 gems, which is... Did we get our stuff? I'm assuming we got our stuff. How many packs did I have? I had less than 10 packs, because I'm only opening them with 10 at a time, because it wastes time. So we got our packs. I'm presuming we got gems, because that looks like the right amount of gems. So yeah, let's open 10 of these packs. See if we get anything spicy. But oh look, Baron and Glorious Anthem here to taunt us. More excitingly, Scavenging Ooze and Conspicuous Snoop, which are great, and a Mythic Wildcard, which is always appreciated. So yeah, is our deck still there? Should probably have looked at our deck. Our deck is not there anymore. So yeah, hope you enjoyed this spontaneous draft video with Gruul, which of course is the thinking man's favourite. But yeah, it was good fun. I enjoyed doing this, so if you enjoyed watching it, let me know.